My name is Elena. They told me not to open the door across the hall. They said the room had no number for a reason, that it had taken people. I didn't believe them. I thought I was stronger than ghosts. But the first night I heard my name whispered from the dark, I knew something was terribly wrong. And when I saw my own reflection smile without me, I realized I had invited something in. Something that wanted to wear my skin like a dress. That night, Mrs. O'Hara handed me a small vial of holy water, a white candle, and a box of matches. "Tonight, you go into the room," she said. "The one with no number. You call her name. Offer her peace. Burn what ties her here." That night, I waited for the building to go quiet. I stood outside the door across the hall, the one with no number, with the candle trembling in my hand. It was the darkest moments of my life. Hi and welcome back to Hearts Awakened. If you're new here, kindly subscribe and hit on notifications, and for my returning subscribers, thank you for stopping by. We shall begin now. When I first arrived in New York City, the whole place felt like a bad dream. The sky was always gray, and the streets stank of smoke, horses, and sewage. I'd just turned 23. I had no family left. The fire on the ship from Spain took my parents. All I had was a small suitcase, a few coins, and my sewing kit. The landlord barely looked at me when he handed me the key. "4th floor," he said. "Room 9. Don't go near the door across the hall." I frowned. "Why not?" He didn't answer. Just walked away and lit his pipe like I wasn't even there. Room 9 was small, just a bed, a stove, and one cracked window that looked out onto an alley. The wallpaper peeled at the corners. Mice scurried through the walls. Still, I was grateful. It was mine. But the door across the hall was different. It had no number. Just wood, faded and cracked, with a knob that looked rusted shut. Something about it made my stomach twist. I couldn't explain why, but I felt like it was watching me. The first night I heard the whisper, I thought I was dreaming. "Elena." My eyes shot open. My heart pounded. I sat up, holding my breath. Nothing. Just the wind against the window. I lay back down and told myself I was overtired. I'd started working at the dress shop near Canal Street that morning. The hours were long, the women cold, the foreman worse. My head was full of noise by the time I returned home. But the second night, I heard it again. Louder. "Elena, help me." It was close. Right outside my door. I held my breath and slowly got out of bed. The floor creaked under my feet as I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing but silence. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was standing on the other side, waiting. The next day, I tried to ask the other tenants about the strange room. Mrs. O'Hara, the old woman who lived downstairs, gave me a sharp look. "That room's cursed. Don't go near it. And don't open it, no matter what you hear." "But why?" "Too many girls gone missing," she whispered, looking over her shoulder. "That room swallows them whole." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the building groan and creak like it was alive. Then came the sound of something dragging, like fingernails scraping across wood. And then, "Let me in. I'm cold." It was the voice of a child. I lit a candle and stepped into the hallway, heart pounding in my chest. The door across from mine, the one with no number, was open. Just a crack. But enough to see that the room inside was dark. Too dark. I should have gone back to bed. I know that now. But I didn't. I stepped closer. "Hello?" I whispered. A soft voice answered, "I'm here." I pushed the door open. The candle flickered wildly. The air inside was freezing. I stepped through the doorway, and the temperature dropped like I'd fallen into a well. There was no furniture, no light, just shadows that shifted like smoke on the walls. Then the door slammed behind me. The candle went out. I screamed and spun around in the pitch black, reaching for the knob. It wouldn't turn. Elena, the voice whispered, right beside me. Stay with me. I don't know how, but the door opened on its own. I fell out into the hallway, gasping. When I looked back, the door was shut tight again, like nothing had happened. The next morning, I begged the landlord to let me switch rooms. He shook his head. You opened the door. It's yours now. I didn't understand what he meant. Not then. But I would soon. After that, the whispers followed me, even in my dreams. I tried to ignore them. I prayed. I lit candles at night. I even asked a priest to bless the hallway. But nothing worked. The voice came every night. Sometimes crying. Sometimes laughing. Sometimes begging. And then came the scratching under my bed. I thought I was losing my mind, until I saw the girl in the mirror smile at me. And I wasn't smiling. After that night, I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the darkness inside that room, the way the cold wrapped around me like fingers. The voice still haunted my dreams, soft and sweet like a child, but not human. I stopped trying to explain it. There were no words for that kind of fear. One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror above the wash basin. My face was pale. My eyes sunken. I barely recognized the girl staring back. But what unsettled me most wasn't how I looked, it was how she moved. I turned my head slowly. My reflection turned just a second too late. I leaned in close. She did the same. But there was something wrong with her eyes. They looked darker. Emptier. I blinked and shook my head. When I looked again, everything seemed normal. But the moment stayed with me. That same day, as I came home from work, Mrs. O'Hara pulled me aside in the stairwell. You look tired, girl, she said. That room's been whispering to you, hasn't it? I didn't answer. She sighed. It always picks the ones with grief in their hearts. It knows how to get in. I don't believe in ghosts, I said, though my voice shook. You will, she said. Go to the old church on Mott Street. Ask Father Brennan about Annabel. He'll tell you. So I did. The next morning, I skipped work and walked to the church. Father Brennan was an old, tired man with shaking hands. When I asked him about Annabel, his face went pale. That name hasn't been spoken in years, he said. Where did you hear it? Someone told me, I said. I think she lived in my building. She lived in room 8½ he said quietly. Died there, too. Her body was never found. Just blood on the floor and her name scratched into the wall. She was 12. I felt sick. She was an orphan, he went on. Left behind by the fever. Folks say her spirit never left. Some believe she's still looking for a mother, someone to stay with her. I didn't want to believe it. I walked home in a daze, hoping it was just an old priest trying to scare me. But that night, I saw her again. It started with the mirror. It had been fogged up when I entered the hallway, strange, since the building was freezing cold. I wiped the glass clean, and for a moment, it was just me. But then, behind me, in the mirror, I saw a girl. She wore a long, white nightgown. Her hair was wet. Her feet were bare. And her eyes were black. I spun around. No one there. But when I looked back at the mirror, she was still standing behind me. "Who are you?" I whispered. Her lips didn't move, but somehow, I heard her voice in my head, "You opened the door. You let me out." I screamed and ran into my room, slamming the door behind me. I covered the mirror above the basin with a cloth. I sat on my bed, shivering. But the whispers came again. And this time, they weren't outside. They were inside my room. "Elena, stay." I turned toward the corner. The shadows shifted. I saw the shape of a little girl crouching there, her face hidden by her hair. I grabbed my candle, lit it with shaking hands, and stepped forward. She lifted her head. It was my face. But twisted. Wrong. She grinned, and her eyes glowed black. I dropped the candle. The flame went out. When I lit it again, she was gone. The next morning, I told myself I was imagining things. That stress and grief were turning me mad. But the mirror didn't lie. Later that day, I removed the cloth and stared into the glass. My reflection stood still, even when I moved. I raised my hand. It didn't. I spoke. It just stared. Then it smiled. I didn't. I ran out of the room, down the stairs, all the way to Mrs. O'Hara's door. I pounded on it like my life depended on it. When she opened it, I burst into tears. "She's in the mirror," I said. "She looks like me. But it's not me." Mrs. O'Hara didn't seem surprised. She sat me down, made tea, and told me the truth. "She wants to take your place," she said. "She needs a body. Someone to wear like a coat." "Why me?" I asked. "Because you're alone," she said gently. Just like she was. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I blinked, I saw her face. Every time I looked at a reflection, in the wash basin, a window, even a puddle on the street, she was there. Watching. Mimicking. Waiting. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I smashed the mirror with the iron poker from the stove. But even with the glass shattered on the floor, her face still looked back at me from every shard. That night, I dreamed I was trapped inside the mirror. Banging on the glass. Screaming for someone to see me. But on the other side, she just smiled and walked away wearing my face. I thought I was free of her. But when I heard fingernails scratching under my bed, I knew she wasn't done with me yet. Days passed. I stopped going to work. I stopped eating. I barely spoke to anyone. I sat in that tiny room, staring at the cracks in the walls, afraid of my own reflection. I had covered every mirror, every piece of glass. But I could still feel her watching me, from puddles in the street, from doorknobs, from the eyes of strangers passing by. Mrs. O'Hara knocked on my door a few times, but I didn't answer. What could I say? That a dead girl wanted to steal my body? That I had seen my own face smiling at me, with someone else behind it? Then came the sounds under the bed. At first, it was soft, like a mouse scratching. But it grew louder. Stronger. Like fingernails dragging across wood. The third night, I woke up to the bed shaking. Just a little. Like something was moving beneath me. I jumped up, lit my candle, and crouched down. There were scratches on the floorboards. Long ones. Fresh. Like someone was trying to claw their way out. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer and pried one of the boards loose. What I found underneath turned my stomach. A small chamber, barely big enough for a child to fit. Inside were scraps of old cloth, a few broken porcelain dolls, and something worse. A patch of long, black hair tied with a red ribbon. And a tiny handprint in dried blood on the wall. I dropped the candle and screamed. That's when Mrs. O'Hara came running. She stood in the doorway and stared into the hole. "You found her nest," she said quietly. "That's where she died." "Who would do this?" I whispered. "Who locks a child under the floor?" "The building's first owner," she said. "He took in orphans for money. Starved them. Buried them alive when they got sick." I shook my head. "Why hasn't she moved on?" "Because she never had a proper burial," she said. "Her spirit's trapped in this place. And now that you've touched her space, she's attached to you." I wanted to scream. To run. But my body felt frozen. "What do I do?" I asked. "There's a way," she said. "But it's dangerous." I didn't care. I couldn't live like this, afraid of every shadow, every reflection. Mrs. O'Hara handed me a small vial of holy water, a white candle, and a box of matches. "Tonight, you go into the room," she said. "The one with no number. You call her name. Offer her peace. Burn what ties her here." "I don't know her name," I said. "You do," she said. "You heard it already." In the whispers. My blood ran cold. Annabel. That night, I waited for the building to go quiet. I stood outside the door across the hall, the one with no number, with the candle trembling in my hand. I whispered her name. Annabel. The doorknob turned on its own. Inside, the air was thick, wet, and cold as death. My candle flickered wildly. "Annabel," I said again, stepping into the darkness. "I know what happened to you. I saw where they left you. But you don't have to stay here anymore." The shadows moved. "Go away," the voice hissed. "She's mine." I raised the vial of holy water and splashed it in front of me. The walls shook. The door slammed shut behind me. I ran to the center of the room. There, under a moldy rug, I found another floorboard, loose. I pried it open. Inside was a dress, tiny, white, stained with blood. A name stitched on the collar. Annabel. I poured the rest of the holy water over it, lit the candle, and set it on fire. The flame roared like it had been waiting. The walls screamed. 1,000 voices, crying, wailing, begging. And oh, the spirit shrieked. "Stay with me." I stumbled back, falling against the door. And then, silence. The fire went out on its own. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Behind me, the room was dark. Still. Just as it should have been from the start. I collapsed in my bed and wept. That night, I slept without whispers. Without tapping. Without fear. It's been months since then. The mirror no longer shows her face. My reflection is just me again. I moved out of the building. Found a new room. Found a new job. Life feels normal now, or close enough. But I'll never forget Annabel. Sometimes, when I walk past a puddle or glance into a window, I still check. Just in case. Because once you open the door, a part of it never really closes. Indeed a scary and historical one. I hope you learnt something new today. Subscribe and hit on notifications. Ensure to stop by on my next story. Bye.